In the Western world, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to divorce, it's just the family court system is stacked against men. Men fare really bad in divorce. So I don't see the benefit. I could be with one girl long term, maybe even my whole life. I don't need the government involved. Divorce is just not good.
That's like a lifelong talking stage.
How's that?
No, you don't want to get married because you don't want to get divorced. Why not just like work towards a really good marriage so you don't have to get divorced?
But here's the thing, Farah. How many people get married thinking that this is the person I love to death? I could never see us breaking up, never see us getting divorced. 1 year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, the divorce comes. 50% of marriages end in divorce.
I don't think those odds are too bad.
50% is pretty bad.
You wouldn't flip a coin for the love of your life?
If I was in an airplane and I was skydiving and there's a 50% chance that the parachute doesn't work, I'm not taking that bet.
Crazy. Oh, I'm just really realizing that my marriage is over and it's really bad. Oh, I'm really sad.
Even though I don't want to be with him anymore, there is a part of me that wants him to still want to be with me. And when I kind of think about like what gets me upset or why am I so sad about certain things, of him wanting to also go through with the divorce, if I don't want to be with him. My problem is not that I don't value myself or I don't have self-love. I think if I didn't, I would continue to be in this relationship. And I feel like this found awareness of myself and the self-love has brought me to this point of wanting to get the divorce and move on and find someone or many someones that fulfill me, more.
Sound like that man about to be free, and you can go out to the streets and find those many someones you want to find.
Is there anyone out there in TikTok land that can tell me what you're supposed to do with your life when you've been in a relationship for 20 plus years with the same person? You have children, you have, built a life.
Stay. That's what they're going to say. Stay.
And then all of a sudden that life is no longer.
Why? Tell me why. Why is it no longer? Who filed?
What are you supposed to do with your life? Like, I work. I'm a registered nurse. I have a career, I guess.
Feminism promised liberation, but look closely and you'll see the irony. It strangled women while quietly freeing men. Think about it. Women were told they could have it all. The career, the independence, the lifestyle. Yet today they dominate the very fields society undervalues the most. They're overrepresented in jobs that are emotionally draining, financially capped, and brutally competitive. Every day, they face the harsh realities of a marketplace that doesn't care about empowerment slogans. And beneath it all, a silent fear no one wants to admit out loud, the dread of aging without security, of realizing that time doesn't negotiate. Meanwhile, many quietly walked away from the pressure cooker. They built their lives with fewer expectations, freer to choose work that rewards effort instead of virtue signaling. This is the hidden plot twist of modern gender politics. The movement that was supposed to liberate women ended up handing men the very freedom women were chasing.
Process of a divorce after 8.5 years of marriage. And there's a lot that went on in our relationship that I've frankly been embarrassed about. One of them is the fact that my soon-to-be ex-husband had an affair with our marriage coach, and...
Now let's be real for a second. If the husband were asked to explain what went down, do you think he'd be flooding the internet with 40-plus videos, breaking down every detail of his side? Not a chance. Most men don't operate like that. They don't feel the need to turn private heartbreak into a public documentary. It's not because they're saints, it's because men are wired differently when it comes to conflict. They process in silence. They retreat. They move on. Meanwhile, we've normalized a culture where oversharing is almost a sport. The more dramatic the breakup, the more content it becomes. But here's the kicker. That endless posting doesn't build sympathy, it reveals desperation. It shows who's chasing validation and who's quietly keeping their dignity. And in today's world of likes and clicks, dignity is the rarest currency of all.
Like, I should be ashamed of that. I made a lot of mistakes in my relationship, but I think everyone makes mistakes in life. And I just want to go through and reflect on some of the choices that I made, because I know that I'm not alone in making some of these mistakes. And if I can caution some people to be aware of certain things and to possibly avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell into in my unhealthier version of myself, then I think it's worth it. Hindsight is 2020, and if I could do it again, I would absolutely make different choices. But here I am, 8.5 years later, with 2 amazing children who I don't regret at all.
Kids involved.
I just want to heal out loud. So if you're ready for a very interesting story that ends in tragedy for me, tragedy that I hope to laugh through, then
A woman steps forward and shares what sounds like a heartbreaking story. Her husband had an affair with none other than their marriage coach, the very person they hired to help save the relationship. Imagine that betrayal. She explains how she tried to fight for the marriage, but every attempt at healing only seemed to pull them further apart. The sessions meant to build trust became a breeding ground for manipulation, isolation, and quiet power plays. Eventually, she admits to her own mistakes choices that fed the toxic cycle and chipped away at the foundation of their marriage. But let's be honest, doesn't it feel like there's more hiding beneath the surface? Affairs rarely appear out of thin air. When a spouse strays, especially with someone who's supposed to be a neutral guide, it usually points to deeper cracks and unspoken resentments, unmet needs, or patterns of control no one wants to own. This isn't just a story of infidelity. It's a warning about what happens when accountability disappears and emotional games replace honest communication. Because in relationships, what you ignore in the daylight will always surface in the dark.
Part 14 of the story of the failure of my marriage, and that includes my husband having an affair with our marriage coach. So if you haven't seen the previous parts, go watch. So this is where we go to therapy for the first time, marriage therapy. So I found someone who took our insurance, and he had secular degrees, and I guess he was a certified marriage and
She opens up about her side of a painful divorce, laying out the betrayal that shattered her trust. Her husband didn't just cheat, he crossed the line with their own marriage coach, the very person meant to guide them back to stability. It's a shocking twist that exposes how messy and unpredictable getting help can really be. Therapy is supposed to be a safe zone, but when hidden motives creep in, it can become a trap instead of a lifeline. Her story underscores how vital healthy communication is, yet it also reminds us that counseling alone can't fix a relationship where honesty has already left the room. But here's the catch. We're only hearing her version. No matter how heartfelt the confession, a one-sided narrative can never capture the full truth. Divorce is rarely black and white. Behind every viral video, there's another perspective, another set of facts, and maybe even uncomfortable truths that will never make it to the screen. Before we rush to judgment, it's worth asking what details are missing and who benefits from the story being told this way.
He also had a religious approach to things, so I hoped it would be a good fit, and we began seeing this person together in therapy. And this man ended up being senile. Like, every time we went in, it was like Groundhog Day. He literally didn't remember anything we had spoken about in previous sessions. It was really weird. And I was going into therapy, marriage couples therapy, trying to resolve issues in our marriage. I wanted to find a way for us to come together. I felt like I was getting all this pressure from my husband, and I wanted to desperately find a way to fix our relationship and to somehow figure out how I could meet his needs. And I honestly just felt like there was something wrong with me. Clearly I was the issue because my husband was so unhappy. And also, I wasn't getting my emotional needs met. And I felt like it was because I was really shut down because of how my husband was acting towards me, right? So there's probably some truth to that. So this ends up not being a great experience for us. It was less than helpful. And my husband really went into that.
The role of marriage coaches might sound noble on paper, but let's be honest, it's a field built entirely on trust, and that makes it controversial by default. You're inviting a stranger into the most private corners of your relationship. You're handing them access to secrets, vulnerabilities, and emotional triggers that most couples barely share with close friends. When those ethical boundaries get crossed, when the coach stops being a neutral guide and starts becoming part of the drama, the fallout is devastating. It's not just about one affair or one bad actor. It raises a bigger question. Who's holding these so-called professionals accountable? Unlike licensed therapists, many marriage coaches operate in a gray area with little oversight, no governing board, and no real consequences when they misuse their influence. And when trust is broken at that level, it doesn't just destroy a marriage, it shakes people's faith in the entire idea of seeking help. This isn't just a cautionary tale about infidelity. It's a reminder that not every expert is equipped to handle the power they're given, and that blind faith in a title can cost more than any couple is prepared to pay.
Woman who I thought was my friend, but he had ultimately chosen her happiness and had been more considerate and sensitive to her and her needs than he had to me.
Okay, let's get to the point.
Which is a huge betrayal. And I don't think anything physical ever happened.
My goodness, this is where the story really takes a turn. After dropping over 36 videos detailing how her husband supposedly cheated, she suddenly releases another clip saying she's not even sure anything physical ever happened. Now, it might have been only an emotional affair. Think about that for a second. 40-plus videos, hours of public heartbreak, and a global audience pulled into a narrative that might not even be grounded in fact. This is the problem with rushing to the internet for validation. Once the story is out, you can't pull it back. Every new update chips away at credibility and leaves viewers wondering what was real, what was exaggerated, and what was pure speculation. It's a cautionary tale for anyone tempted to turn private pain into public content. Because when emotions settle and the details shift, the internet doesn't forget time. Apologies never travel as far as accusations.
I had a front row seat to this relationship, and that it was being thrown in my face constantly by both of them. Like, there were times where I would get in an argument with my husband and I would call this woman sobbing because she knew both of us, and I was confiding in her. And, I was betrayed by two people, the two people closest to me. And, it was just, I think.
Here's what it really sounds like happened. During one of their therapy sessions, the marriage coach gave the husband a simple worksheet and exercise meant to help the couple lay everything on the table. But instead of bringing them closer, that sheet of paper became a reality check. As he answered those questions, he came to a blunt conclusion. This isn't worth it. And that's when the narrative shifted. Rather than facing the hard truth, she started pointing fingers, blaming the therapist, hinting at conspiracies, accusing them of plotting behind her back. But let's call it what it is. If you're no longer attracted to your partner, if intimacy is off the table, the marriage is already on life support. Staying just to keep the lifestyle while withholding affection isn't love, it's a hostage situation dressed up as commitment. And when one person finally refuses to play along, the other scrambles to rewrite the story so they don't look like the villain. It's a reminder that sometimes the most painful endings aren't betrayals at all, they're just overdue truths finally spoken out loud.
Is not unique. I left a marriage after 15 years. I had 3 kids with the man. I had built a life with him, and I really wanted it to work. Deciding when it was time to leave, deciding that I had tried hard enough, deciding that yes, it was worth to take the risk of the unknown for leaving the known, which I had become very accustomed to over the last 15 years. And even though I was miserable, there was some security to it. There was a little bit of, at least I was comfortable in knowing what to expect. As the years would roll by and every birthday I got the same card that said next year will be better, I somewhere deep inside thought to myself, there's no way, and the only way that my life is going to change is if I leave. But I had 3 kids, and I was also thinking, wait, if my happiness means that I'm taking away the kids' happiness, and all of the guilt that came into play of, am I being so selfish that I want to leave this, and is it bad enough? But here's the kicker. The kicker is that if you are in a place where you are absolutely miserable, you're being treated horribly, or whatever your circumstances are, but you know in your heart that the only way to change your life is to leave, let me tell you that you will carry guilt with you, that it will be extremely difficult. And when you are looking for people who you're like, okay, well, she left and look how her life turned out, and you're looking for examples, and your mind is researching for the evidence that you're going to be okay, I'm going to tell you that no matter what it is, that's the unknown that's on the other side. If you are in a situation right now where years are passing by and you are still miserable in a relationship and you're not being taken care of and you're not being seen and you're not being heard and you're just being alone in a marriage, the unknown is terrifying, but there's nothing more terrifying than looking back and seeing all the years that you wasted.
Let's talk about expectations for a second. The average woman today dreams of a man who's tall, handsome, wealthy, and effortlessly attractive. It's a checklist built like a luxury wish list, status, looks, and bank account all bundled into one. But here's the irony. While chasing that ideal, many never stop to invest in the qualities that actually make a relationship work. Inner beauty, personality, character, the things that can't be bought, filtered, or faked. And when the inside stays neglected, it always shows up on the outside. It might not be visible at first, but over time, entitlement seeps through the subtle attitude that says, if you're the man, you owe me everything. The dates, the gifts, the lifelong devotional demanded as if love is a contract and not a choice. The tragedy is that this mindset rarely leads to happiness, because no amount of height, money, or charm can satisfy someone who never learned how to give as much as they take. And in the end, the very standards meant to secure a perfect partner often become the reason they end up alone.
Complaining that they're not getting enough of the man's money, and you're like looking at her like, you dingbat. First of all, nobody wants you out here on the dating market. I hate to break it to you. Like, what? Like, you FOMO'd at 50 and you got kids. Like, don't nobody want you. And then on the other side, it's like, you would have had more money if you stayed with him. Okay? If you file for divorce and you don't get a payout, the only people that are going to be advocating for you and being like, no, you need to take him, sis. Get him for everything. Like, those are some toxic women.